Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen, Nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair to Medina College for inviting me to talk today on Saturday, 4th of April, 2020. The topic for today's session will be the life of Sheikh ibn al-Amin, his service to the Deen. Inshallah, it will be the first of possibly 3, if not 2 sessions. We'll see how it goes today. I have a goal which I want to achieve today, hopefully get up to the life of the Sheikh just before we talk about his family life, inshallah. But before I start, I just wanted to remind myself and everyone else, offer some nasiha, bearing in mind the current climate, global climate. We all have a lot of time, and it's poignant that I offer this reminder to myself and everyone else about how to utilize our time, in particularly when we seek knowledge of the Deen, and to stress really upon how we need to study. And this isn't just for this session today, it's for every gathering you attend, every talk you attend, every lesson. We really need to make it count, our presence. So how do we study? How do we seek knowledge? Without a doubt, we need to study in a very serious manner. Many of us have been studying for a while, and our commitment to knowledge varies. And it's really a case of stepping up to the plate and making our time count. So amongst the things which factors we need to be wary of are to attend regularly. Not a lesson here and a lesson there, as if, you know, we have plenty of time. I can miss one lesson, no big deal. No, be serious about studying your religion. You will not gain knowledge about your Deen if you're inconsistent. Prepare the lesson in advance where you can, inshallah. And for those who are very serious about gaining knowledge, then memorize and learn it. So I have 3 stages or 3 steps which will help in seeking knowledge. And the first one would be to prepare in advance. So if we're studying a book, al-Aqidah al-Wasatiyya, then that's just an example, but any book you're studying, if you don't have a grasp of the Arabic language, then try and get hold of the translation in English if you're able. Sheikh Abdullah al-Abbad, Hafidhahullah, he would say that whoever does not bring their book with them to the lesson, then he is not really a student of knowledge. We'll discuss this particular point a bit later on, but it's worth mentioning here that stressing the importance of bringing a book with you, inshallah. The second factor which will help us is to concentrate in the lesson, to be alert. And this is one of the reasons I'm not happy about any of my lessons being recorded. Why? Because when you know the lesson is being recorded, you sit at ease. And when you sit at ease, there is a natural tendency to switch off. Only when you are aware that you do not take notes, you will miss out. Only when that is the case, then you are on edge and alert, inshallah. And the scholars have mentioned that there are 2 types of people. 2 types of people who attend lessons. And the first one is a serious student of knowledge. He comes prepared for his lesson. So he has a book, he has a notepad, a pen, maybe a pencil, and he's really prepared. He brings everything which he needs to the lesson to aid his learning. He writes, he makes notes, he listens and is is generally very attentive, paying attention. And this reminds me of the narration transmitted by, narrated, sorry, by Muhammad ibn Mubashir in Sirah A'lam al-Nubala, in which he mentions when Muhammad ibn Salam al-Baykandi, when his pen broke while he was in this gathering of a Sheikh, he announced there and then a pen for a dinar, and whereby pens began to fall upon him from all directions. So this was the importance he attached to making notes, that he was willing to pay even 1 dinar for a pen because he didn't want to miss out. The second type of student of knowledge, the scholars have referred to such a student as the guest. And the guest is the type who comes and sits down and he listens. He doesn't really do much else. He hasn't brought any book with him. He hasn't brought a notepad, a pen or pencil, anything to take notes with. And while he is sitting at ease, not taking notes, he may doze off now and again, concentrating intermittently. Why? Because he is sitting at ease. He is not on edge, he is not alert. He may check his phone for text messages or emails, and after the lesson is over, he will go home. The scholars call these people the guests. Don't be from this category of student of knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Imran, Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every soul shall taste death. So our lifespan upon this earth is very short, and we will all need to raise our game and seriously step up and be serious about the knowledge that we seek. And look, when we reflect upon the Salaf and how they used to seek knowledge, there's a narration about Qatada ibn Di'am as-Suddusi, and again the narration is in Sirah A'lam al-Nubala, and he said here, I have never said to a scholar of hadith, a muhaddith, repeat it to me, and nor have my ears ever heard anything except that it has settled upon my heart, i.e. I have memorized it. And this is the seriousness with which the Salaf used to take knowledge, that they were alert, they committed to memory everything that they learnt. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Dhariyat, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and remind, for indeed the reminder benefits the believers. So this opportunity I'm taking to remind one another about the importance of seeking knowledge, knowing what it means to call ourselves Muslims, to be a Muslim upon sound knowledge and insight, inshallah. Islam is not just about offering the 5 daily prayers without appreciating to whom and why we are praying, for example. As I mentioned, this advice is firstly to myself and then to you all, that really enough is enough. We really need to take the seeking of knowledge serious, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitate this for us. So with all your lessons, please try and get a copy. If you're studying a book, try to get a copy of the English translation where you can. A printout of the Arabic text of the book, a notebook, a pen, and not just one pen, maybe a spare pen just in case the pen stops working, the ink runs out or whatever. At least you have a backup, inshallah. And then once you're prepared, you attend every lesson, roll up your sleeves and make your time at every lesson count, inshallah. The third factor that will help in seeking knowledge is that we recap and revise what we have studied. So when you get home, you go over what you have studied during the lesson and make sure you have good understanding of the material which was covered. Even better, when you get home, teach your wives, your brothers, your sisters, your husbands. I remember as second year Jamia students, one of the things which used to help us affirm the knowledge which we had of Medina Book 1, we would teach the new students, in private lessons. And the scholars have advised, try to revise and study in groups of 2, maybe 3, that you can discuss issues and try to get a better understanding. So sit together and go over the material which you have studied. The current climate doesn't permit that unless you're in the same household, but maybe online you have a group that you can gather and study. And this will give you an opportunity to fill any gaps you have in your notes and understanding. And afterwards, sit and discuss your understanding of what you've learnt. And I want to close this short advice with an example of a sister who strived and struggled just to learn the Arabic language, despite her difficult circumstances. So she had a 24-hour routine with her husband where they both cared for their 2 terminally ill children who had Batten's disease, one of them a boy aged 12 and the other a girl aged 10. And despite this schedule which she would remain awake during the day, her husband at night, she would still pursue her passion for learning the Arabic language. If you looked at her circumstances, you'd think, subhanAllah, where would you find the time? Or you have the excuse not to seek knowledge or Arabic language, your hands are full, but still she made time. So her care shift would finish daily at around midnight. And then I would visit her to teach her for up to 1 hour. And after I left, she would revise what I had taught her until 2 a.m. when she would go to sleep. She would then be up again for the Fajr prayer and then resume her care shift at 8 a.m. My sister Zaki, she died of breast cancer in the early hours of Saturday, 16th Ramadan, 1st of December 2001, at the age of 35 years. May Allah Azza wa Jal cleanse my sister of her sins and reward her with al-Firdaus al-A'la. Amin. Tayyib, we'll begin then, inshallah, discussing the life of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. And I'll start with the hadith transmitted by Imam al-Bukhari, in which he mentions that Anas ibn Malik, radiyallahu anhu, he narrates, الرؤيا الحسنة من الرجل الصالح جزء من 46 جزءا من النبوة. A good dream that comes true of a righteous man is one of 46 parts of prophethood. In the next narration, transmitted by Muslim, Abu Qatada mentions that the Prophet ﷺ said, الرؤيا الصالحة من الله والرؤيا السوء من الشيطان. A true good dream is from Allah and a bad dream is from shaitan. And in the final hadith, narrated by Abu Huraira, transmitted by al-Bukhari, Abu Huraira says, I heard the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, لم يبق من النبوة إلا المبشرات. قالوا وما المبشرات؟ قال الرؤيا الصالحة. The Prophet ﷺ said, nothing is left of prophethood except al-mubashirat. So they asked, what are al-mubashirat? He replied, the true good dreams that convey glad tidings. A man narrates, my father once narrated a story to me about an old man who had a dream. In this dream, he met Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah in one of the markets of Unayza. Unayza is a region between Medina and Riyadh. It is one in Unayza. There was one in the marketplace. There was a place of gathering, a well-known place in Unayza. During this meeting, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah handed a lamp to this old man. When the old man later inquired about the meaning of his dream, he was told that he will have a child who would grow up to be righteous, salih, and he would have an elevated stature in Islamic knowledge. So a child was born to this old man, and he was set upon naming him Salih, in the hope that this dream would be true and specific to this child. So Salih was a religious, and he was devout and loved the people just as they loved him too. He would recite the Quran and stand the night in prayer. However, he was not a student of knowledge. Salih then got married and had a son whom he named Muhammad. He was Muhammad ibn Salih al-Amin. And in reality, and we consider him as such, he was the lamp which Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah had given the old man in the dream. And as for this old man, well, he was the grandfather of Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen. May Allah have mercy upon him. And this particular narration was this dream was narrated by Abdullah, the eldest son of Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen. And we've all heard of Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen. And really what I wanted to do today was to shed some light on the Sheikh's exemplary life, intending by doing so to be inspired by his noble example, inshallah. The Muhaddith of Medina, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abad, I mentioned something of his a little earlier. He said that the greatest calamity that befell this ummah was upon the death of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, the greatest calamities to befall have been upon the death of those who inherited from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna al-ulama'a warathatul anbiya, wa inna al-anbiya'a lam yuwarrithu dinaran wala dirhama, wa innama warrathul ilma, faman akhadahu akhadha bihaddin wafir." The Prophet ﷺ said, certainly the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets, and the prophets have not bequeathed dinar nor dirham. Rather, they have bequeathed knowledge. So whoever takes it has taken an abundance of good fortune. And in terms of knowledge then, Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen certainly took an abundance of good fortune, and this was recognized by the scholars around him and the general masses. He exerted really immense effort in spreading knowledge through his teachings, his dawah, and his books and recordings. And his general acceptance amongst the masses is testimony to his elevated stature, inshallah. May Allah accept from him all of his efforts. One of the things which I want to do as I relate bits of the story of the Sheikh, I want to pepper them with some anecdotes which those around the Sheikh have penned. And in this particular juncture, I just want to mention that Sheikh Fahad ibn Abdullah Sunaid, he narrates, as for the zuhd of the Sheikh, the asceticism, then it is sufficient to know that all his books, which have been printed with his permission, are for noble charitable causes. Additionally, it has been made a condition for those who choose to print his books that they do not hold any rights over the books should anyone wish to print them and freely distribute them. This was the eagerness the Sheikh attached to wanting to spread the knowledge. If anyone wanted to print any of his books and give them out for free, then they have the permission to do so. As for the lineage of the Sheikh then, he was Muhammad ibn Salih, ibn Muhammad, ibn Sulaiman, ibn Abdurrahman, ibn Uthman, ibn Abdullah, ibn Abdurrahman, ibn Ahmad, ibn Muqbil, ibn al-Wahabi, from the tribe of Tamim. As for the family name of the Sheikh, i.e. Uthaymeen, then the Sheikh's great-great-great-grandfather, he assumed, his name was Uthman, and he was the one who assumed the name Uthaymeen. And from there on, the family became known by this name. And as you can see from the linguistic perspective, Uthaymin is derived from Uthman. The Sheikh, he was born on Saturday, 27th of Ramadan, in the year 1347, which corresponds to around 9th of March, 1929, in the city of Unayza, in one of the two cities. Unayza is one of the two cities in the province of Qasim, the other one being Burayda. And the Sheikh, in terms of Hijri years, was 74 years, but in terms of Gregorian years, he was 72. The Sheikh's family were known for being upright and religious. So naturally, the Sheikh began his studies by learning how to read the Quran. And he did this under the tutelage of his maternal grandfather, Abdurrahman ibn Sulaiman al-Damigh. And what's really amazing, subhanAllah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed the Sheikh. The Sheikh went on to memorize the Quran in 6 months. In 6 months, he memorized the Quran, and he did this under the guidance of a blind teacher, Ali ibn Abdullah al-Shuhaytan. And in this regard, Ibrahim ibn Hamad al-Jutayli, he knew Sheikh ibn Uthaymin for 45 years. 20 of those years was as a student of the Sheikh. And he narrated, indeed, he memorized the Quran in 6 months under the guidance of a blind teacher, Ali ibn Abdullah al-Shuhaytan. And the reason why I'm mentioning this point is that when you look at the biographies of the Sheikh, it mentions that he memorized the Quran under the tutelage of his maternal grandfather, Abdurrahman ibn Sulaiman al-Damigh, and this is popularly narrated, but in reality, he started reading the Quran with him, but he went on to memorize the Quran under the tutelage of Ash-Shuhaytan. After he memorized the Quran, the Sheikh proceeded to learn to write as well as study mathematics. And indeed, subhanAllah, Allah blessed the Sheikh with intelligence and righteousness. He was also blessed with a high degree of determination to seek knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us all in the determination to seek knowledge of al-Islam, inshallah. The Sheikh's brother, Abdurrahman ibn Salih al-Uthaymin, mentioned that a good, pure and sincere intention is good. It's indeed, it's imperative requirement for a firm foundation upon which to begin seeking knowledge. And in reflection, he said, when Sheikh ibn Uthaymin had purified his intention, we noticed how Allah had blessed him by opening the doors of knowledge to him. And what also helped the Sheikh was his noble upbringing, as well as his self-confidence. So in this particular narration, Sheikh Asim ibn Abdul Mun'im al-Mar'i, he narrates, and from the special characteristics for which he was well known was his eagerness, steadfastness in seeking knowledge. And some of the relatives of a judge in Unayza at the time, his name was Sheikh Abdullah ibn Muhammad al-Mani'. He was the judge in Unayza in around about 1942. And his relatives mentioned that when Sheikh ibn Uthaymin was young, he would come every morning to the Sheikh's house. And he would come after Fajr. And he would knock on the door, carrying his papers and his books. He would say, Assalamu alaikum to the Sheikh, seek his permission and go upstairs to the library of the Sheikh. And there he would remain until just before the time of Dhuhr, whereby he would then descend, say Assalamu alaikum to the Sheikh again, and then he would leave. And this was at a time when he was still young and he had not even turned the age of 12 years old. And the discipline of the Sheikh is something which needs to be highlighted here. At such a young age, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with discipline. Every single day after Fajr, he would go to the Sheikh's house to study in the library. And in his determination to seek knowledge, at the age of 18, the Sheikh joined the study circles of Sheikh Abdullah ibn Nasir al-Sa'di in Unayza. Sheikh al-Sa'di, you may well know that he is the famous scholar who wrote a tafsir amongst many other books, but his tafsir is well known. It's called Taysir al-Karim al-Rahman fi Tafsir Kalam al-Mannan. And this particular tafsir, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he recommends the beginning students of knowledge to study first, because as the Sheikh said, it is a good, easy and reliable book. So it's been simplified immensely in comparison to the other voluminous tafasir which are out there. At the time, Sheikh al-Sa'di had appointed 2 of his senior students of knowledge to teach the young students. And these 2 senior students were Sheikh Ali al-Salihi and Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Aziz al-Mutawwa'. These were the 2 senior students of Sheikh al-Sa'di that he had now appointed to teach the younger students of knowledge. And it was under the tutelage of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Aziz al-Mutawwa' that the Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen began studying Mukhtasar al-Aqidah al-Wasitiyya of al-Sa'di, Minhaj al-Salikin in fiqh of al-Sa'di, and he also studied Arabic grammar, al-Ajrumiyyah and al-Alfiyya. He also studied fiqh and the laws of inheritance, faraid, under the tutelage of Sheikh Ali Abdurrahman ibn Udan. And then in 1954, Al-Ma'had al-Ilmi, the Institute of Knowledge, was opened in Riyadh. And some people, they suggested to the Sheikh, why don't you enroll and study there? So the Sheikh, he discussed the possibility with his Sheikh, Sheikh Ali al-Salihi, of traveling to Riyadh and studying there. And then he finally sought and received permission from Sheikh al-Sa'di himself to permit him to go to Riyadh to study at the Ma'had al-Ilmi. And the Ma'had al-Ilmi, the Institute of Knowledge, had 2 departments. One was general and the other one was for higher studies. So the Sheikh enrolled at the higher studies level, which better catered for his high caliber. He had reached a very good level to allow him to study at the high level. And what's really interesting, we have mentioned about the Sheikh's diligence and his zeal and the discipline really to seek knowledge. The duration of the course of study in Riyadh was 4 years, which is what we have in Medina and quite possibly the other universities. This course of study is when you're studying at the Faculty of Sharia, for example, or Da'wah, Hadith, or Quran, the course of study is 4 years. However, the Sheikh completed it sooner than expected. At that time, students who were very capable, they were allowed to continue with their studies throughout the summer months if they chose to do so. So, for example, when a student, he completed his first year of study, then he'd set the exams around May time, and towards the end of May, once he's passed, as is the case even today, that you would go back home for the summer. But in this particular, at this particular time, those students who were capable, they were allowed to continue with their studies throughout the summer months, if they chose to do so. So when you finished your first year of studies, you've started in September, say you finished around May, did your exams, you'd go off home. So the months of June, July, August, 3.5 months, you would cram the studies of the whole year into those months. And at the end of the summer, you would do your exam. And if you have done well and passed, then that September, where the majority of the returning students would be beginning year number 2, you would be beginning the 3rd year. And this was the case with Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. And I just want to mention here, Sheikh Wasiullah Abbas, Hafidhahullah, the Mufti of Makkah, he himself, when he graduated from Medina, he did this also. I think it was at the time when Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad was the principal, and he permitted him to do so, but this is something which comes to my mind. And it's not for everyone. It's for those students who had the ability and the determination, where all their friends and fellow students would go home for the summer months. He persisted and continued with his studies, mashallah. So in this manner, he completed a 4-year course of study in 2 years. And during his time in Riyadh, the Sheikh, he benefited by studying under Sheikh Ibn Baz. And it was under his tutelage, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen studied Sahih al-Bukhari, some books of Ibn Taymiyyah, such as Muqaddimat Tafsir, and some other books of fiqh. And the Sheikh was deeply affected and influenced by Sheikh Ibn Baz in terms of the care and attention he paid to hadith, his exemplary manners, and his humility and compassion towards the people without prejudice. So whilst the Sheikh was studying at the Institute of Knowledge then in Riyadh, he mentions, the Sheikh narrates this story. He said, as students at the Institute of Knowledge in Riyadh, one day we were sitting in our classroom when this old man, he entered upon us. And if you saw him, you would say to yourself, this is just a Bedouin Arab. How could he possibly have any knowledge? His garments were shabby, they were very shabby and ragged. And he did not have any air or stature about him. He didn't appear to be concerned about his appearance. As such, by now, he had sort of fallen in our eyes. And at that moment, my thoughts drifted to my Sheikh, Sa'di in Qasim. And I thought to myself, I've left my Sheikh in Qasim and I've come to sit in front of this Bedouin. Subhanallah. So when this man who had just entered upon them, the man who Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen is talking about, referring to, when he began his lesson, the beneficial fruits of his knowledge just began to flow and overcome us all from his vast ocean of knowledge. It was then it dawned upon us all that we were indeed sitting in front of a great scholar from amongst the scholars. We benefited from his knowledge, his exemplary character and manner, and his zuhud and piety. And this Bedouin Arab, as I referred to, was none other than Sheikh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti, the famous scholar of tafsir and usul al-fiqh. Such was the level of his knowledge that when Sheikh Ibn Baz was the principal of the university in Medina, he would sit in the tafsir lessons of Sheikh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti in al-Masjid al-Nabawi. Subhanallah. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen mentions that he was also influenced by Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah's life spent in the service of Islam. He was also influenced by Sheikh Muhammad Rashid Rida in terms of not blindly following opinions of those scholars who had passed away, and instead looking back at the evidences they used to reach their opinions. Upon completing his studies at the Institute of Knowledge, the Sheikh transferred to the Faculty of Sharia at Imam Muhammad University in Riyadh. Whilst he enrolled at the Faculty of Sharia, the Sheikh returned to Unayza to continue his studies under Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Sa'di. And Sheikh al-Sa'di is considered to be his first teacher since he remained with him for a lengthy period of 11 years. And it was under the Sheikh's tutelage, he studied the sciences of Tawheed, Tafsir, Hadith, Fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh, Fara'id, laws of inheritance, Mustalah al-Hadith, Nahu and Sarf. And then at the time, the Ma'had al-Ilmi was also opened in Unayza in 1956. So the Sheikh was appointed to teach there during the day, whilst he continued seeking knowledge with Sheikh al-Sa'di later in the day. So while he was teaching in the mornings, later on, possibly after Asr, he would then go and study with Sheikh al-Sa'di. Again, I'm narrating this of the life of the Sheikh for us all to reflect and see how much time the Sheikh committed and pursued his passion to seek the knowledge of the Deen. And at the end of each academic year, the Sheikh would travel to Riyadh to sit his examination at the Faculty of Sharia at Imam Muhammad University. I just want to pause here a moment and check regarding our timing, and bear with me, huh? We are due to wrap up now in a couple of minutes, so inshallah I will wrap up. We have obviously more to go, and inshallah our next session, continuing the life of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen in the service of the Deen, will be next Thursday at the same time. If anyone has any questions related to what has been mentioned, then please feel free to ask, inshallah. The question, one of the questions here we have is the tafsir of Sheikh al-Sa'di. This is, let me just get the correct, we just note as tafsir al-Sa'di, just so that I don't, this one. Taysir al-Karim al-Rahman fi tafsir kalam al-Mannan. So let me just type the answer here. This is the name of the tafsir of Sheikh al-Sa'di. One of the questions someone's asked is, I mentioned about having a copy of the book. Whenever you go to any lesson, I'm really referring to the copy of the book which you're studying. So if it's Aqid al-Wasitiyya, Usul al-Thalatha, any book which you're studying with your teacher, then try to have a copy of the book in which you can take notes, and at least when you go home you can read through it, prepare for the next lesson, as well as revise for the previous lesson. One of the brothers is asking, was Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen a student of Sheikh Ibn Baz? Yes, he was. He studied Sahih al-Bukhari and some of the books of Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. How do I get rid of laziness in seeking knowledge and in everything in general? Then one of the things which is important, not only in seeking knowledge, but in our daily lives, is to improve our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fid din." Anyone whom Allah wishes good for, he grants him understanding of the religion. And it is Allah who grants you the understanding of the religion. So that being the case, you need to improve your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So make sure that you are up to date in terms of your salah, you are punctual, you do your extra nawafil deeds after you've done your wajibat. Try to change your surrounding. Maybe if you have friends who are negative influences to you, those are not friends. They are not your friends. You need to change your company, change your lifestyle, maybe how you're spending your time, your free time. And this is not going to happen overnight, but utilize the opportunities Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us every single day, the last third of the night. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for aid in this, that He increases you in love for the deen and makes it easy for you. It is going to be a struggle. The path to paradise is not easy, and Shaitan will be your number one enemy, and he will lay the thorns in your way, make things difficult. But look at how Sheikh al-Amin, he maintained his resilience, and everything comes back down to your intention. So improve your intention, inshallah, solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to improve your, get rid of your laziness, inshallah. We can, inshallah, study this when we maybe go through the Book of Knowledge. But if you have access to the Book of Knowledge of Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen, the Sheikh mentions a lot of beneficial things in the book which will help overcome laziness and focus, increasing focus upon the deen, inshallah. Someone's asking, I am currently studying Medina Book 1 for Arabic language. How many times a week should I be learning, as I want to seek knowledge properly, and how long per day? I have a rule: the more time you spend studying the Arabic language, the more you will learn, the more firm your deen will be, your understanding, inshallah, will be. So if you spend 1 hour a week, then expect that sort of quality of understanding. Ideally, you should be doing something every single day. There are audios, videos around, plenty of material online. And if you can get someone to teach you one-to-one, even better. But utilize these times. Everyone, no one has an excuse now during this time. So the more you study, I will not put a limit to it. The more you study and persevere, the better will be the outcome, inshallah. The Sheikh, okay, when did Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen die? Subhanallah, we've just talked about him being born, and we haven't reached that point. The Sheikh, subhanallah, he died, if you want the date, he died in 2001, in 15th of Shawwal, 1421, which was around 5th of January, 2001. Okay, the Sirah book that was, subhanallah, the book which I was referring to was Sirah A'lam al-Nubala of Imam al-Dhahabi. And these anecdotes which I've mentioned about the Salaf, they're all available in Words of Wisdom section on Fatwa Online. So please feel free to access them there. They're all referenced as well. And as for the anecdotes in the life of the Sheikh, they're all available in Jewels of Guidance section in Fatwa Online. So when starting the seeking knowledge, what do you recommend to begin with, and in what order of importance? Can I just recommend everyone try to get a hold of a copy of the Book of Knowledge, because the Sheikh himself talks about, the path of seeking knowledge and how to do so, the factors which help and the factors which don't. And the Sheikh does a far more better job than I could in explaining that. And maybe one day we can actually study it together online. But if you have access to the book, then refer to the Sheikh's advice in that book, inshallah. What do you recommend us to start with to learn Arabic? I recommend you what I did myself, and that was the Medina program, Medina Book 1, 2, and 3, and the supporting books. As I mentioned, a lot of references are online. Study materials. So I believe there are classes at Medina College as well, so it might be worth looking there and seeing what they have availability, or any of the masajid. But now time is tight or restricted because of our circumstances, so have a look online if there is anything there. Is there an authentic book on the biography of the Sheikh? There are in Arabic. There are quite a few books the students of the Sheikh and those who love the Sheikh have compiled. What was the name of the Sheikh with rugged clothes? His name was Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti, and he was the author of Adwa al-Bayan, which was the highly praised tafsir of the Quran. And he then later on, he was also a teacher at the Jamia. And subhanAllah, he had two sons. One of them was a specialist in Usul al-Fiqh, and the other one was a specialist in tafsir. And the Sheikh himself, their father, was a specialist in both. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I have only recently started to gain knowledge. I was wondering what the Arabic terms such as the Surah Thalatha meant. 3 fundamental principles. I've started lessons in Surah Thalatha, but I'm wondering, is it better for me to first memorize the Quran before this book? SubhanAllah, you have time for both, inshallah. If you can combine the two, it's better. In terms of the Sheikh, if your ability is strong that you can memorize the Quran in a short space of time, Sheikh al-Amin did it in 6 months, then alhamdulillah, push yourself, akhi. For the rest of us, you try and combine, be disciplined, and the Mashaykh mentioned that you should have a set portion every single day to seek knowledge, to read the Quran, and maintain that every single day. Whatever your circumstances, don't give up your daily portion, which you read every single day. And the best of time to memorize is fresh, right after Fajr. Memorize, and throughout the day, you revise your Quran. And what's much easier now is that we all have smartphones, so you don't need to be in a state of wudu either to read the Quran, because the mobile device does not take the ruling of the Mus'haf, which you need to have wudu to touch and read. So that being the case, it's made even easier for you. So where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has facilitated so much ease for all of us, shame upon us if we fail to step up to the plate and grab these opportunities to improve ourselves, inshallah. So keep maintaining your Quran, akhi, and also start with these books of knowledge, inshallah. What's the name of the book of knowledge? It is called the Book of Knowledge. Dar es Salaam, they have copies, and other bookshops, inshallah. Just do a search for it, inshallah. You'll find any of the bookshops, inshallah, should have a copy. And I believe Amazon, you might find there are some on there. طيب, where will the next lesson be held? Part 2. Next lesson will be held next Thursday evening at 6 p.m. طيب, and we have, someone's asking, are there classes regularly held? We could join. Tomorrow we have a lesson on the fiqh of fasting in preparation for Ramadan. I'll try and publish the details on my Twitter account, inshallah. طيب, what Arabic books should one study after the Medina books? All of this, all these questions, subhanAllah, related questions, they're all mentioned and answered in the Book of Knowledge of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. So if you have a look at try to get a subhanAllah, copy of the book, or even if you could borrow a copy. As I mentioned, the Sheikh has gone through all the factors which help a student of knowledge, and discussed those things which improve the student's ability and those things which harm, right up to mentioning the books which a student should start with. And in the appendices, there are 3 categories of student levels of students, which are recommended in terms of the books they should start with. So beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So all of the books are listed there along with the print. So there are a number of prints out there, and the scholars have recommended certain prints because they are less in printing errors and typos. So again, yeah, so please refer to those books, to the Book of Knowledge, because it's a complete book really for the students to refer to and benefit from. And inshallah, with that, we will finish for today, and we will begin the next lesson on Thursday, I believe it's 10th of April at 6 p.m. inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.